Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Building a Nation with Polonia Warszawa. It is the 14th season analysis video. This one's probably going to be a bit truncated because I can kind of predict what we're going to find. In terms of what players I need to sign, basically, defensive midfield is the only area where I think I need to actually improve it. Not because I don't think Silva's good, and he is. It's just that we don't play that system enough, and he constantly complains about football, and now I've broken promises about playing him, so we might need to find a younger option to go in there. We might already have that within our squad, but he's one of the players that might well move on in the summer. We're going to talk about a few of the players that I definitely do want to move on and whatnot, but the useful thing about it, of course, is that in theory, once it ticks over, we should have much higher player values, which means we should be able to rake in a much more equitable amount of money for some of these players. So, Alberto Freitas, club captain, best player at the club, 5-star, 23 years old, 140 games for us, already has 35 caps for Portugal, captain of the club, love him, 16 heading, 15 marking, 17 tackling, so that was 18 at one point. Great physicals, just an absolute monster in the air. His balance and strength are unrivaled. 39 appearances this year, grabbed 5 goals, of course, 3 goals in European Championship qualifiers for Portugal as well. That's very impressive. 1 in the Cup for us, 2 in the League, 1 in the Club World Cup, and 1 in the Champions League. So he scored in basically every major competition that we played in. Can't really fault him. Gonna try and move through these a bit faster. Jacobo Garcia, he's a player that I think might be one I will look to potentially move on in the summer. It depends, because when you look at our strength in that position in the centre, we've got a Roscoe, we've got Gorosito can play deeper, we've also got Idshak coming through, Boateng coming in there too. There's options coming through, and I feel like he might be just peaking off. Only made 20 appearances this year, mostly in the league, in fact they were all in the league other than in the cup. Just the 3 goals this season. Hasn't had the best year, but 155 appearances for us though. That is an awful lot, and he is still a very good player, but you've got to look at these things after all. Brian Gorosito, I mean, this guy is an absolute monster. I love him so much. 21 caps for Argentina, only 1 goal surprisingly. This year, 37 games, only 13 goals. A bit of a sort of drop-off season for him this year. He did struggle towards the end. It's fair to say 2 goals and 2 assists in the Champions League, 7 goals and 7 assists. Does he just love parity? Oh my god, look at this! 2 goals and 2 assists in the Champions League, 7 goals and 7 assists in the league, 1 goal and 1 assist in the UEFA Super Cup, and 2 goals and 2 assists in the Cup. Everything must be equal. I'm going to call him Brian Equilibrium from now on. So there you have it. And of course, none for none in the Super Pucha Polski. Lovely old name. Just compare him to last season. So less league appearances than last year, and he's kept up the assist side of things, and has actually had a better season overall, it would seem, but he has contributed less goals. Now, it might be because he's played deeper a fair amount this year. If we can just have a little gander at his tactics screen, you'll see that, in fact, yes, he's only playing the attacking midfield role 9 times, whereas he's played deeper, much deeper, on 30 occasions this season, and has put in some shifts. So maybe, actually, he's not had a bad season at all when you look at it, and maybe I've been a bit harsh on there. Anyway, Federico Grande, this is a guy who hasn't really featured much for us this year. 8 starts and 17 substitute appearances, but he's still managed to get 6 goals in the league. However, I do think he's one of the players I'm probably going to look to move on, just because Pereira, Firmino, Zviggy might go as well, but we've still got the likes of John Martinez and Mohamed Kone coming through as young strikers too, and I just wonder how much of a place there is for a player like Federico Grande, particularly when we could hopefully get some decent cash for him. But he might stick around because he is on low wages, which would definitely help us. Christian Henningsen, this is a guy who I genuinely think has been really stiffed by just other things going against him while he's been here. He's been here, 2 seasons now? 3? Might even be 3 seasons. And he's had injuries. He's had players that have got in front of him just by pure, he's been out, so they've taken the control of the team and just not been there. Let's just see how many games. No, he's only been here for 2 seasons. Made more appearances this year, but only got 2 assists. He just hasn't been able to muster that much. Only started 1 game and 6 off the bench. It's a shame for Christian Henningsen. He might be one that I will look to move on as well, because we've already got for Posse, Restrepo and Saavedra all ahead of him in that right-hand side, and the likes of Hugo Rios coming through. Even Rafał Brzezinski, Brzezinski, I'm going to sneeze, coming through in those positions, as well as even Tarek Abdelrahim. There's so much options coming through in there, and I just don't know if he's going to quite make it here. On the face of it, he looks like an amazing player, but he just never quite got his chance for us, which is a shame, but we must move on. Bartolomé Idshak, interesting that his potential has kind of taken a little dip. He's not really got that much better since he joined us, which is weird. You think that he'd be kind of improving, but he just doesn't seem to have really cottoned on that much. He's still made 34 appearances for us, and I still like the guy a lot, and he'll obviously be sticking around. 2 goals and 3 assists in the league so far. Rarely got in the Champions. Well, he did. He got off the bench a few times, but that's not really what you want from him. I don't know. We'll see where he goes, the lad. He's still young. Juan Martín Iglesias, now 23 caps for Argentina. He's comfortably the best goalkeeper at the club, now that he's finally taken over from Franceschi. What a man. He only conceded 7 goals in the league. in his entire season, in 29 matches that he started. 23 clean sheets as well in that period of time. Even in the Champions League, he only conceded 11 goals in 13 games, which is pretty damn good, really. I'm a huge fan of this lad. Long may he continue to be at the club for a very long time. He's only 22 after all. Carroll, my man. Still got a bright future. Plenty of games this year. 21 matches he's played for us this year. He's got 50 appearances in all competitions. You can see, though, 18 caps for Poland already and 2 goals on the board. Like, what a man. Really, really decent player, actually. He's got a lot of good attributes for that advanced playmaker role. He really, really does. Decent physicals, not great in terms of his natural fitness, though, which could be a slight problem. But I do think he's a great third-choice player that can keep coming in time and time again. Just see how he's done in comparison to last year. More games, way more goals, but less assists in the league, interestingly, this year, and a worse average rating overall. So, definitely need to keep an eye on Carroll, but I still think he's one for the future. The Llama hasn't had a huge amount of game time this year, but when he has, he's been excellent, really. 19 league appearances for us, which is kind of what we're really interested in. He got a goal in there too. I think he's going to be bloody fantastic, and he's still only 19 years old. Still a long way to improve for this lad. I'm firmly in the camp that he's going to be really battling it out for a first-team spot next season, so no worry about the Llama at all. Blaise Delisic, I mean, still only 2 caps. Amazing. 21 years old, only 2 caps for Poland. Probably one of the best players. Well, he was voted European Golden Boy, to give you an idea. 122 appearances for Polonia and 50 goals he's got in the league already. This season, Champions League, 5 goals and 5 assists in the Champions League. 9 goals and 7 assists in the league, 4 in the cup as well. I love him. He's got 20 and 32 and 13 assists. How was his league form compared to last season? Played less games, but he probably had his second best season overall ever. So still super pleased for old Blaise. He's just an excellent player, and as long as we can keep him around, I really do think he's got, I think he has the potential to be the best player to come through the youth academy, possibly ever, on one of my saves, now that we're actually seeing a bit more of him. It's amazing that he's still only 21. Anyway, moving down to Rafael Maka. Only played 3 games, all off the bench. I swear I was going to start him in one. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. It might have been a cup game. I don't know. Point is, he's one for the future. Not really much we can say about him, because, he hasn't played enough. Ahmed Mufta has been on loan at basically every single club you can imagine. Only ever played 2 games for us. I think his contract is up actually next summer. So we might look to move him on this summer just so that we get some money for him. Because I'm a huge fan of the guy. He's just never been quite good enough to play for us. He nearly had a chance one season. Alan Olivier, love this guy so much. I'm going to say that about a lot of these guys. But look, 9 goals in 18 starts in the league. Sorry, 9 assists rather. He's actually pretty damn impressive. And for that right back spot, he has got one hell of a player in front of him in Petr Shabal. So, I mean, you can see, last season for us, he actually was pretty good last season too, but he's improved this year. And the Man of the Match Awards is the real sign for me about how good this guy's been. I look forward to seeing the proper stats for him anyway. Juan Orozco, solid as you like, central midfielder. Don't think he'll be going anywhere anytime soon. 8 goals, 3 assists this year. 35 appearances overall. Just spreading them out nicely across the board. Huge fan of him. Uroš Pandurovic still made a decent number of appearances and was pretty good in the games that he did play, mostly, in fact, almost exclusively league stuff. Just a useful player to have around the club, really, because he's not on super high wages, and he has got I gave him a new contract last season, I think, so I see no reason why he won't stick around for any more, because he's got 171 appearances for us. By the way, that is a huge amount. He's been here a while, it'd be fair to say. Is he 27 years old now? My God. 27-year-old regens. It doesn't even compute with me normally. Ibrahima Pereira. This guy is godlike. I genuinely stand by the fact that I think he's the reason we've won the Champions League and got to the semi-finals in back-to-back seasons. Got to the final in back-to-back seasons. He just seems to bring something to the team. I mean, look at that. 25 goals in 34 league games, which shows that he's great in the league. Got 15 in the league this year, but he got 10 in the Champions League this year. Didn't he get 8 last year? We can check this, actually. So, you got 10 and 13 in the league last year. He got probably an even better return this year. But look at the Champions League. This is what we're really interested in. So we got, where was it? We have to try to take that into account. But, no, did he got, he got 4 and 6. Actually, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. Point is, he's scored a lot of goals for us in very important and big games. And that is excellent to see. And he'll be going nowhere in the summer. Hell no. I want to keep him around forever. Piscula, weird thing about Piscula, youngster came through the youth academy, backup goalkeeper. The thing about him is that I tried to offer him a new deal and he wanted 10 grand a week and then refused anything less. I couldn't do anything. He just went red. So I don't know what it is about him, but he must just have a really weird agent. Frustrating though. Restrepo, he gets games. Look at the amount of different things he's played in. He's only got 4 goals and 4 assists this year, which he could probably do with upping a little bit, in all honesty, when you compare him to the likes of someone like Fopossi, which we're going to see in a minute. But I still think he's got plenty to give for us later down the line. Tobias Rosa He's played a decent amount this year as well. Hasn't got many assists, though, it's fair to say. He's sort of just dropping off a little bit compared to Albarracin. We thought he was going to overtake him at one point, but he just seems to have fallen away a little bit. He's had his worst season. In fact, he's had his worst full season for us since he joined the club when you look at it. Just hasn't been anywhere near as good as he was that one season and that first one before that. So, interesting to note. Maybe Rursa's not quite able to cut it. We'll have to see. Saavedra hasn't made a great deal of appearances this year. It's fair to say. No goals. Most of these appearances, we've got a few league starts here and there. Played in the Club World Cup and got an assist as well. But I just... he might move on, but I think we do need a little bit more... If Henningsen does go, then Saavedra will definitely stick around, that's for sure. Petr Chabal, this guy is amazingly good. 9 assists in the league. He's also got goals for us too, and I think this has definitely been his best year for us ever, surely. Look at that. 3 goals, 9 assists, and 4 man of the match awards, and a 7.98 average rating. And he's been good for basically every season he's played for us, but this one has been a real step up in quality from him. And it's about time, really, that we start to see something like this from him, and long may it continue. Diego Silva. You can see this, look, 14 starts he's made. Most of those were in the Champions League. In fact, he's only come off the bench for 4 league games. And he's been all right in the Champions League, he has. But I'm concerned that he's going to complain about the lack of football due to his squad status, and he already doesn't like me because of that. And that is a concern. So he might stick around, or we might have to bring someone younger, because we do have the likes of Cornelis coming through there, so you never know. We've got Treverio, a guy who really has shot up in my expectations this season just because of his sheer goal-scoring prowess. 20 goals he scored for us this year. One of the few players that broke into the 20 club. Got 5 in the Champions League. He got 11 in the league. He's just got goals for days, and I believe that we're going to notice a huge jump here. Well, actually, no. He's still had a better season, got less assists and got more goals, but he got them in way less matches. So I feel like, that's a third less matches he's got them in. So you could basically argue he's probably on for more like 14 goals if you extrapolate out. So very good. Very, very good. I like him there. I actually prefer Gorosito deeper and him in the attacking role for now, which gives Carroll more room in the pecking order, in all honesty, because he's basically the second choice. Thiago Verás has been here this year, hasn't really played a great deal, but still, lots of potential for this guy. Still only 20 years old. He's far down the pecking order, but he's improving. Unlike Abraham Opoku, who just doesn't seem to be getting it just yet. Donny Waterberg. He's missed quite a few games, but he's still got 11 goals this season in 19 appearances or 19 starts. Really, really do like this guy. He's an excellent backup to Blaise Elise because he's got that goal-scoring nous for the most part. Anyway, he's got a good long shot on him too, so he'll definitely be sticking around. West Brom were interested in him, which seems a bit weird, but there you go. Leandro Albarracin. God, he's been here for such a long time, it feels like. Decent season again. Not too many assists, not too many goals. He's not been fantastic, but he's done the job, it would seem, and he just continues to do it. 75 caps for Peru, and he's still only 26. He has been here a while, and actually, that was his best season ever for us, which he must be doing something. So I'm very much looking forward to finding out what that is, to be honest. Bonavento, has he made any appearances? 12 starts, most of which were... Yeah, he's barely featured in any competitive matches for us, and I do think he might be one that could move on, because I feel like Cornelis could just step up into the first team and take hold of that role anyway. Herman Carballo, I think he did actually play for us once. Yeah, a couple of assists he got in a game too. He just needs to get off of the wage bill, so he will be leaving in the summer. I don't know if he's actually set to join anyone just yet. I don't think so, no. But yeah, that 23 grand a week that we'll have back from him is going to be very useful to get. And Mateusz Zwigal, look at that, 25 caps for Poland and 17 goals. It ain't bad, is it? 150 games for us and 84 goals. Still our top ever goal scorer, but that Pereira could catch him up in a couple of seasons. He's got 2 goals in the league so far. 11 goals in UEFA European Championship qualifying. Like, what is that? That is an insane amount of goals that he's got playing in that system with Carroll. Can't argue his international form, but I do think maybe he needs to move to another Polish club permanently for the good of his career. And if someone like GKS are interested in, I would be happy to let them have Mateusz Zwigal, because I don't think he'd probably move out the country, and I want to make sure he goes to another Polish side. So if they do come in with a bid, I will be tempted to make that deal and say goodbye to... He's still only 22 years old. That's the crazy thing about Matty. Look at some of these seasons. He had a 22 goal season, a 23 goal season, but he's just not quite been good enough to keep up with the pace. But I still love him so much. But I think he needs to move on to another Polish side for the good of his career. Andrea Falvella, I've come to like him a lot more, but he is an absolute nuisance. So that's why we've got an asking price. So if someone does meet this, and we might adjust that if the values change, then I might be tempted, because, I don't know, the guy is an absolute bellend, and he's a pain in the arse to deal with. So I don't know whether that's an issue or not. We'll have to see, really. I don't want to have to sell him if I don't want to, because he has actually been really good for us this year, for the most part. Vanino, look at this, 27 goals this guy has smashed in this year. He's got 19 in 18 league starts, got 2 in the Champions League despite only starting 1 game. Vanino is an absolutely brilliant player, and I've got to say, For a player that literally cost us nothing in terms of actual transfer fees, he's been excellent for us so far. Look at his record in terms of goal scoring compared to what he was like at Gladbach. Like, it's undeniable. He's been absolutely phenomenal for us this year in the league. Top goal scorer in the league, 6 assists, 19 goals. And he only started 18 matches and he's got 19 goals. Imagine if he'd started like 30. I could see this guy being that type of player, but Pereira's obviously filled in a lot there too. Love him. He's definitely sticking around. He's on massive wages, which is the one downside to him, but he's so good. I just love him. And Kelvin for Posse. Almost forgot about him. 14 goals, 17 assists. That is a bit more like it. 9 in the league, 10 in the 10 assists in the league. Champions League has been a little bit off pace, though, is what I would say. Only 1 goal and 3 assists in the Champions League, but he's still only young, and he has improved an awful lot this year, considering where he was when he came in. At one point, my scouts were rating him even higher than this, but also a bit lower. However, he's starting to appear a bit susceptible to injuries, which is a little bit concerning, but still, I mean, look at this. He has been still very good, so I can't really argue with that. And we're back to Alberti Freitas. Right, let's go have a look at some team and player stats. So average possession, as usual, we're not quite up on that one, unfortunately. I think it's because the tactic we play doesn't always give us as much possession as before, but it does give us more goals, so that's what matters. 17 penalties we've had. That is an ungodly amount of penalties to have won. But I guess we dribble at them so much with that new tactic that we're winning so many penalties. 13 of which have been scored too, which ain't bad, to be honest. Headers won, down towards the bottom. That's fair enough. Headers won ratio, actually not doing too great on that one either, which could be a bit of a bad sign. I don't know. The form is irrelevant. 117 goals. Leg Poznan with 72 is not bad, but 117 is ridiculous. Pass completion. Oh, no, sorry. Cross completion, 18%. Very nice indeed. I want to get 500 crosses completed one day, but it just hasn't quite happened yet. Goals from corners, tied at the others with 8, which is decent. Goals from drop free kicks, we've scored a few. Rakov certainly looking deadly from those. Indirect free kicks as well, 7, really nice. Pass completion, up there again. Passes completed. Wow, that is really weird. So we're not completing that many passes anymore. But we are completing a lot of the passes that we are completing. That doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? Chances created, 79. Pretty damn good. Wodra have created an awful lot of chances. You'd expect them to be doing better than they are, really. Shots on target ratio as well. Like, they've got a lot of things to like about Wodge here. Where did they come in the league? I just want to check this. They were relegation group, it would seem. I hope they stayed up, because there's definitely something there. Yeah, they did stay up in the end. 46. It must be just their defensive side of things that completely screwed them. Because, I don't know, it feels like there's something to them. Oh. Let's try and find out where we were. Stats, team, detailed. Right, yeah. That is very interesting, because they're getting a lot of chances. And they're getting a lot of shots on target. There's a lot of good things. Shots on target overall. A decent number, like top half. That is very... That must be the defensive side of things that has completely cost them. Their conversion rate is piss poor. They really need a better striker, it would seem. If they could get a decent striker, they would be top half potential comfortably. Fouls against. Dribbles per game, obviously we're right in front of that one as well. And watch us... No, they're all right on that one. Right, this is where I want to see. Defensive, 11 goals conceded. Not our best, but still very good. Only 1 goal conceded from corners. Nice to see. Watch have been pretty solid on that one too. Direct free kicks. They've conceded 6 of those, which is a bit of a shame for them. Might be an issue for them. But again, not too bad from the indirect free kicks. We've conceded a couple. Clean sheets this season. 28. They've only kept 7. They definitely need to work on that. Fouls made. We're not very fouly, which is always nice to see. We're not winning that many tackles, which is fine, because we're usually towards the top on this one. Zag have actually done really well. Penalties conceded, none. Whereas Wadram conceded 6 and Piast conceded 14 penalties. Average attendance, my God, we're up into 6 now with nearly 16,000 people. Average attendance by capacity, 95%. Yeah, that was bound to happen. Stadium sellouts, we still have 13 of them though, in fairness. Highest attendance was 16,100. I might try and up the stadium again once that's finished, because I don't know when that's going to be finished. Lowest attendance overall was 11,000, which is really nice to see. And net transfer spend, here we go. Oh yeah, hang on, goals conceded. Yeah, look, they have one of the worst defences in the league, so that kind of suggests that. So net transfer spend, we did spend £50 million net. Katowice spent 14 million net. So there you go. Lech Poznan actually made money. And now all about salaries. Arteki Katowice are still in second by a comfortable distance over Lechia and Lech, who are actually... but it's good to see secure finances for both Katowice, Lech Poznan and Legia. Unfortunately, Lechia, for some reason, don't have secure finances, which is a shame. But it means I think this summer, with the inflation... I'm really hoping that we get that transfer, the value boost to the players that I've been told about, which was supposedly for 7th, so 6th should be even better. I want to see some big money being spent by some of these Polish sides, and I think Katowice are going to go absolutely mental if they get into the Europa League group stage. And I just hope they get a better draw this time than they did last time. We've got the strongest teams, in my opinion, in those positions. So I really do feel like this could be the year that Poland takes the league, the Champions League and Europa League by storm. I want to hopefully get all 5 through, but 4 would be nice. That would be my ideal situation. Anyway, let's look at players while we're here. See if there's anyone standing out amazingly who's done a great job this year. Games 1, not too bothered about that. Yellow cards, I don't think we normally have anyone on this one at all, do we? Oh, we do. Orozco's picked up 5. Naughty boy. I've got no reds at all, so that's a bit useless to even look at that. Man of the match awards, though. Alan Olivier with 6, which is astonishingly good. Firmino with 5. Gorosito's in there too. Chabal, Lisic, Pereira. Distance covered per 90 minutes. Mateus Ferreira, he's still there. Matthias Ferrer is still around. He's a guy I very nearly signed all those years ago. Oh, that's weird. Did he go to Arca and then come back again? Or was it on loan? Yeah, it was. He went on loan to Arca for 2 seasons. Then, wait, hang on. No, wait, sorry. My apologies. He was at Arca and then went on loan to Rakov for a season, did okay, and eventually signed for Rakov for £1.4 million. That was at the point where I nearly bought him, but it was just too much money. He's been an absolute god for them. 9 Polish caps too. Very interesting to see. Average rating overall, Petr Chabal actually ends up winning it, but look at that. Which means inevitably Mambimbi will win player of the season because apparently they just ignore us. Even where we've got 11 of the top 12 players in the league in there. Even Restrepo is on there for crying out loud. Headers 1. No one on there at all. Goals, we should have tons of these players on there. Firmino with 19, Pereira with 15, Treverio with 11, Lisic and Fopossi nearly getting into double figures as well. We 3 players in double figures in the league and 3 more right on the cusp of it too. Average minutes per goal. Firmino miles ahead of everybody else. What a season he's had, genuinely. Shots overall, Gorosito, he just loves the shot, doesn't he? Shots on target. Firmino is really hitting the target. Right, here we go. Look at this. Peda, somehow, despite having 70% shots on target, has only got 5 goals this season. Pereira at 62% is very, very good. That is actually huge. I wonder if there's a PPM we could give Pereira that would help us turn some of that into goals. I don't know. Conversion rate. Anyone on there at all for us? Treverio, 17%. For Posse at 16%. I noticed there's no Wodge players on here. That probably being the issue. Team goals. He's been on the pitch for 96 goals. Penalties. We've had so many different players take them. Firmino scored 4 out of 6. Lisic scored 100. Oh, yeah. I feel like Lisic's missed him. It might have been in the Champions League or something, or in the Cup or something. I feel like I've seen Lisic miss a penalty. Jacobo Garcia. Federico Grandi also scored 1 in there too. Assists overall. Oh, that's not what I meant to press. Assists overall. Kelvin Fopossi. 10 assists. Chabal got 9. Olivier got 9 as well. Lisic with 7. Gorosito with 7. That is an awful lot of assists being put around the board. Key passes. Wow, we didn't have the most. Bernhard Merkel got the most key passes by a real sizable distance, as did David Gessior. Okay, who is this Bernhard Merkel guy? German, right winger. Oh, okay. Wow, very agile. Interesting choice. Signed for them from Augsburg. Actually not that long ago, only 4 years ago. Interesting. Okay, usually we're up on that one. Chances created. And again, Marek Polak as well. This guy has done such great things for Pogon over his entire career. Never quite earned the Polish call-up somehow, despite being player of the season in the Ekstraklasa, playing for Pogon. And remember, he's done that this year, in a year that Pogon were relegated. They got relegated, I'm fairly certain of it. Let me just check this. 6th. Yeah, they got relegated this season, which is crazy, by the way. So well played to them, or him, I suppose. Pass completion, Iglesias with 93%. Yeah, no surprises on that one. Cross completion, Gorosito, Treverio, Firmino, Olivier, 18% is very, very high. Dribbles per game. I would have expected Lisic to be on there, actually, but maybe he's not played enough league games, I don't know. Team conceded. Orozco's only been on the pitch for 4 goals conceded. Tackles per game. Nope, no one on there too. We shouldn't have anyone on that one. Nope. Mistakes, we normally have 1 or 2 players on this one, but no. Przemysław Yamrog, you might notice he's not here. I actually didn't mention this. He was released last summer, and he's been playing for Corona this season. I think they might have got relegated with him. Nope, they actually just about survived. So how's he done this year, playing for Corona Kielce? Fine, I guess. He's had a bit of a weird career. A player that was so highly rated at first when I spent 1.2 million on him, and then Rakov poached him off of us. We then bought him back again. And he's had some solid seasons, I've got to say, but yeah, he was never quite good enough, and he never quite got in the Poland squad once, but never got the actual cap, which is a shame for the poor lad. Helped me though, because it would have cost us loads of money. Key tackles, no one on there at all. Headers, Pereira. That's strange, considering he's not even really a he's not a particularly tall player, but he loves a header apparently. Interceptions, no. Headers 1 ratio, wow, 94%. We need to talk about that when it comes to the analysis part. Jacobo Garcia's not bad too. That's crazy high though. Shots blocked. Goals conceded, of course. 7 goals conceded in 29 games. What a lad. Clean sheets as well, 23. No one even comes close. Although Lech do love a bit of decent goalkeepers, it would seem. And that should do it on that one. Right, let's go and actually do the proper analysis part now. Okay, so we're basically comparing apples to oranges in some ways, but, Artur Piscula and Juan Martin Iglesias, he's played nearly 1,000 minutes, so it's worthwhile taking a gander at him in comparison, but I do feel like it's much of a muchness. So, yeah, 50 appearances, by the way, that is an insane amount. That's probably the most we've ever had in one season in this save. Less conceded per 90 minutes. Did make a mistake into a goal, took a lot of clean sheets. What we really need to look at, though, is the actual comparison, because this information doesn't really tell us a great deal. So I want to compare him to Piscula. We've still got Martin Mazur here as well. So let's go to statistics, and we want league, because that's where he would have made most of his appearances. So conceded per 90 minutes is the best, assists none, pass completion is higher, average rating is higher, everything is higher, essentially. He's just a much better player in every single conceivable way. Although Piscula's mentals are getting there and his eccentricity is nice and low, which is fine. So yeah, Iglesias wins that one. No surprise there. Let's move on. This one I'm looking forward to because most of what I'm going to say, essentially, I think my conclusions are going to be simple. Young players, if I can find them, because I want to keep building that conveyor belt for now, because I think that's still our best bet. And if I find someone amazing, I'll sign them. But I do think the DM role might be something to look at. But honestly, I don't feel like marquee signings are really where we need to be right now, because we've actually got decent players in virtually every position by just maintaining and holding on to them as long as we can. And I feel like now we've kind of got to the point where the club's rep has grown so much that it's actually not going to be that difficult to hang on to a lot of these players now. We're having less and less... We're having the same number of transfer bids, really, for the most part. But what we're getting less of is people complaining when I reject those bids and their agents kicking up a fuss. That's something that used to happen an awful lot until the end of last season, really. And it was great because we had Freitas and he could deal with that for the most part. But yeah, so just looking at this, centre-backs, we've got all four of them have played a decent number of minutes. You can see that the Llama is obviously the youngest by a country distance. But the point is, I want to see how well he's keeping up with the others. So pass completion, nice to see. Llama actually the best, considering he is not a passing defender at all. If I recall, that's his real sort of blind spot in his game. So the fact that he's actually got 86% pass completion is phenomenal. Maybe it's just him dropping the ball off to better players. I don't know. Team goals scored per 90 minutes. Freitas and Falvella obviously are better players and generally play in the better side. So that kind of makes sense. That's fine. Key passes. Pandurovic, really decent amount. Lamas, you can see there, he's mostly dropping the passes off, I would suggest, to a better player. And Freitas is, despite he was never meant to be that type of player, but he does seem to have just taken on that mantle in the end anyway. Team can see that doesn't really count, does it? Team can see per 90 minutes, though. Lama, 0.23. The guy, admittedly, does play against the weaker opponents, but still, very, very impressive. The others are all kind of much closer together. I still feel like the Llama is ready to make that step up next season, and you can see his average rating is very, very high. Why does that say 0 when the others have just got none available? That's really weird. Tackles 1 ratio. Freitas 92. The Llama is slightly off the pace for those guys, and he's got a little bit to learn on that one, which is fine because he's young. I'll give him a bit of a break on that one. Interceptions per 90 minutes, it's kind of a similar story. He's on the lower end of that one, but Panda still showing he's got some real chops for that kind of position. Headers 1 though. The Llama is up top with Freitas. That is what I want to see. He's a big, big man with great aerial ability. And I mean, one thing as well I will point out is that his average rating is right in there. Like, he's certainly not lagging behind the others by that much. But what I would say as well is that Falvella has put in a really stonkingly good season and has kind of redeemed himself as a player in my eyes. Not as a personality, still think he's a dick, but he's certainly had an incredible season. And the fact that he didn't play basically for most of that first year, and I still stand by doing that, remember, because Poirier actually scored the winner or scored a goal in the Champions League final for us and had an absolutely godlike season for us last year. But Falvella has stepped into the fold and done a stellar job of being Freitas' centre-back partnership. And quite frankly, I'm still happy with persisting with these 4 centre-backs for another season. Bringing in a couple of youngsters if I can do, but the fact is these 4 are still more than capable of handling what they've got to do. And the Llama, I feel like, is only going to move up the pecking order, not down. It's as simple as that. I actually can't remember. Is it Vinjevich was the other guy? Let me see if he's still here. So he was released at the end of last season and actually went and played for Lokomotiv over in the Russian league. So that's where Vinjevich went. So when it comes to fullbacks, I'm going to ignore Veras and Rafael Maka, as well as Opoku, because they just haven't played enough minutes. And what we're really comparing is the rest of these guys. So Chabal and Leandro Alba are seen as the starters, followed by Olivier and Röser. Now, this one is going to be quite telling for me, because you can see these guys, the potential knockoff, they're already dropping below what these guys have got, and they've not even reached their current levels yet. So I do want to see, and maybe we found the twos. I mean, Albarracine's been here for years. We know he's great, but he's kind of wavered at times. But we will see who's done well this season. So assists per 90 minutes. Alain Olivier, top of the pops on that one, but not far behind Chabal. So it's clear to see that Olivier is still the slightly better player in terms of creativity going forward. But the fact is, Chabal has really stepped it up this year and had an absolutely unbelievable season with 13 assists. Like, I cannot fault him for his effort this year. And Olivier has predominantly played against weaker opponents. So the fact that Chabal's got that many assists truly does speak to me of what he's like as a player. But still good to see Olivier actually competing on that one. Röse has, again, outperformed Albarracin on that one. So as much as I can talk about that, Röse has still had a better season. But we always kind of knew that that was his game. He's always been better than Albarracin in that sort of situation. Chances created per 90 minutes. Olivier, again, vastly more than Chabal, but you can see that Albarracin has been much better at creating chances this year than Röse has. But it's just interesting to see how much Olivier, again, has overperformed in the attacking side of the game. He really has been stunningly good, and it really does explain why he got so many Man of the Match awards this year. Pass completion. Chabal, 82. He's definitely better at the passing, but Olivier's right in there. Röse lagging behind Albarracin on that one a tiny little bit. Key passes per 90 minutes. I expect Albarracin to do quite well on this one. Olivier, again, flying out in front. That's a 50% increase nearly over Petr Chabal. He's just that little bit better. But I think Petr's just better all round. Albarracin, still pretty good in comparison to Tobias Röse, who does seem to lack on the key passes. He can provide an assist, but his actual sort of finesse play, it would seem, I think his assists are mostly coming from him just whipping crosses in, which is fine. It's a very valuable part of the game, but I think Leandro Albarracin is playing slightly more nuanced type of football, but we'll see. Dribbles per game. Leandro Albarracin is a very good dribbler as well. Chabal, much better. Röse, decent. And Olivier down there below. They're just not quite there yet in terms of dribbling. Now, I don't know what the dribbling stats are like. Röse's dribbling is 10, which isn't bad. And Olivier's is 10. I assume Chabal, yeah, his is like 14. And Albarracin's isn't that high, though, is it? No, it's only 9. I think his is being made up for by other elements of his game. Right, let's see. This is important. Olivier, 19% cross completion. Chabal down at 14. Oh, God. Imagine if Chabal had his cross completion ratio. Genuinely, like there's a 5% gap, but it's actually more like a 25% increase. In fact, it might even be more than that. It's more like 30-odd% increase. Like, if he had his cross completion, I hasten to think that he could be on towards 17, 18 assists this year. Olivier can really deliver a ball, and that is where he's done an excellent job this year. Albarracin and Röse fairly close actually on their cross completion. So Albarracin has stepped up this year. Like, he's lost a lot of battles to Röse over previous seasons, but this year he seems to have upped his game a little bit, or Röse's got worse. I'm not sure which of the two that it kind of is. Chabal, maybe he just puts in more crosses. I don't know. I mean, what is his crossing compared to Olivier? His crossing is 13 compared to Olivier's 12. So, in theory, he should be doing better. But there's obviously other factors in terms of positions where Olivier is crossing, all sorts of stuff. Tackles-1 ratio. Chabal, Albarracin. So, Röse, very, very poor in the defensive side of things. That's something we kind of already knew. And that is where his game really does start to fall apart. What's really nice to see, though, is that Olivier is only 3% below. So, he's certainly not lacking much on the defensive side of the game as well. To me, he's getting much, much closer to giving Chabal a run for his money as almost an equal. He's sort of just slightly below him. He's more of an understudy than a backup at this point. He really is giving him a run for his money. Whereas Röse, he can compete with Albarracin on a lot of the attacking side of things, but he really does fall down when it comes to the defensive side. And Albarracin's picked up on a lot of the attacking stuff this season too. Interceptions. Röse, decent on interceptions. Chabal, it's basically, yeah, Röse does know how to intercept the ball, though. So he's not winning many tackles, but he's getting in there beforehand. For the defensive side of things, he does love an aerial challenge, though, which is weird because I always consider Albarracin to be the big man in the air. When you consider that he's like 6'2" compared to Röse, who's also 6'2". Why do I always think he's short? Is it because he's young? Chabal, on the other hand, only 5'10", and Olivier only 5'7". So we do lack a bit of height in that right back spot, which is why I think sometimes we have to play them a bit deeper in those other tactics to avoid the ball going over their head. Average ratings overall. Chabal, Albarracin, Olivier, and you can see that it kind of plans out like that. Olivier's putting up very respectable numbers. Like, a 7.62 is a phenomenal score if it wasn't for the fact that the other two have just been that much better. Röse is still a decent score, but it's a drop-off. Our fullbacks usually do very well. So, I don't think I need to sign anybody in these roles, because remember, we've got 2 or 3 players behind in each of these roles as well that aren't even listed on this screen. Just to give you an idea, if I just remove that there, and then bam, you can see there is an absolutely godlike amount of players. Look, there's Maka, there's Veres, there's Apoku in there. You've got El Bagaria in there as well. There is an awful lot of players waiting in the wings to come in and do a job for us at some point, potentially. Abraham Apoku actually played nearly 1,000 minutes. I think it's because I moved him down a squad, but you can see that he just isn't ready for it just yet. Although his cross completion is very, very good. So, has he got decent crossing, maybe? I don't know. Let's have a look. Nothing there just yet. Interesting, though. You can definitely see that his average rating overall, it is in amongst it with some of the others as well, which is pleasing, whereas the likes of Veras, not really quite there, but Opoku is putting up some pretty decent numbers. So next year, maybe we have to have a look at him as well, because he does still have that 5-star potential, it would seem. Anyway, let's move on to DMs. There's going to be a limited amount to really analyse with this. I'm going to be honest, there's not really much we can say, because Diego Silva's only played 1,300 minutes this season, and Benevento's only played 300 minutes. Better average rating. We do concede more goals with him in the team, but that's because he's basically exclusively played in the Champions League. Still wins more tackles, more key passes, same pass complete. I don't think there's really much more we can say here. What I would say, though, is we can just have a quick gander at see if there's any quality coming through in terms of potential. So Cornelius is the main one that I feel like could step up soon, although Mallets could potentially play there, I suppose. But it's all really about Glenn Cornelius, and I feel like the one thing he lacks is his height, and I am concerned about that, but that's the one position I feel like we might be able to sign someone there, but I don't know if we need to, because it's not a position we use that often anymore, only really in the Champions League. But it is important to keep someone like Silva around. My issue is if he wants to leave, we might not be able to stop him because he's not getting much football here. And I'd much rather have maybe a younger player that can come in and I can keep them on a lower squad status, perhaps. That's the only problem. If we could have him on a rotation, he'd be fine. But because he's first team quality, first team squad stayers, he complains too much and that costs us a lot down the line. But that's all we can really say about that. Let's move on to CMs. Okay, so generally speaking, for the most part, a lot of this season we've played 2 central midfielders. Some games in Europe we've obviously played 1. But it's given a bit more options for these kinds of players. I've included Gorosito here because he played most of the season as a CM. Idchak's in here too, along with Orozco and Garcia. I've barely played anyone else in these roles, unless I've absolutely had to. It's as simple as that, really. So we've got 4 players here really competing for 2 roles. You can see that there's a few extras waiting in the wings, kind of, but it's mainly the same kind of players. Boateng is one of the options, potentially. Serovic, just, I don't know if he's ever going to quite make it here. But we'll come back and talk about that later. For now, what I want to see is central midfielders. So Idchak, 87, 87, 87, and Gorosito slightly lower, but it might have been dragged down by him playing further up the pitch. That's fine, because he did play there for a little bit. Key passes per 90 minutes. You can see, again, Idchak out in front. Gorosito up there as well. Idchak is giving him a run for his money. Orozco, much lower, and Garcia much lower. Like, Idchak is playing, but he's started 20 games for us this year, the 18-year-old Pole, and so far look at the number of passes completed, 52. He really does love to spray that ball around a lot, and it's not like he's not making key passes with it. He is. He's making a lot of them. Him and Gorosito really play that role well. Tackles 1 ratio. That's where he does lack a little bit. Gorosito and Garcia can really put themselves about a bit. Idchak's not quite got used to the defensive side of the game, and he might be a little bit lightweight for now, and that might be just due to his age. He's not quite been to the gym enough, you know? Interceptions per 90 minutes as well. Orozco, really high. Idchak struggling on that side of things too. He seems like a very creative player, but he needs a stronger defensive player to play next to him in that role, it would seem. And Gorosito's kind of similar, whereas Orozco and Garcia, but Gorosito can win tackles when he goes for them. He just doesn't intercept as much, whereas Orozco is a very good defensive player for that role too, as we'll find out in a minute from his aerial side of things. You can see Idchak and Gorosito rubbish in the air, whereas Orozco is an absolute monster in the air. And honestly, it feels to me like a midfield pairing of either Orozco and Gorosito or Orozco and Idchak is about as perfect as you can get. Because Orozco is a very good player for the most part across the board, but he's also an excellent player at winning the ball back and winning stuff in the air for his teammates. So him alongside a more creative, I say more creative because he's still bloody creative, but someone who's just got a little bit more creativity like Orozco or Idchak could be the perfect partnership for that midfield. And I feel like kind of leaves Jacobo Garcia out in the cold because he doesn't really do any of these things that well. He's not as good as, like, he would play instead of Orozco rather than instead of Idchak or Garcia. Let's put it that way, because they're just not as good in the air. From a defensive side of things, you can really see that play out. Idchak, we can see a lot more goals with him in the team, but it might be because we've been playing the wrong combination of players. Now, average rating, you can see Gorosito and Orozco dominating that one, and Idchak and Garcia not doing so well. But I don't know, I feel like over time, Idchak is going to improve. So the way I'm looking at this is we've got 4 players there, and there's Boateng coming through. I'm still going to look for more youngsters, but at the moment, I feel like I'm pretty happy with playing a combination of these 4 players for the most part. Like, we've got 2 for kind of each position. Gorosito or Idchak for the more creative role, and then Orozco or Garcia for the other role. But I might take a look at the actual role they're going to play when they're in that role, if that makes sense. I might look at the actual settings and maybe, because they've been playing as a box-to-box midfielder, I think, although I might move that around and try to find something that's going to create a bit more fluidity for them, maybe. Look at the tactics over the summer, see what we can come up with in that one. But yeah, again, young players, if they're available, don't really think I need to strengthen in many areas, and it's going to be difficult to at this point anyway. Remember how good we are as a comparison to other teams now. There's a lot. It takes a lot to sign a player with this kind of level of ability, genuinely. Like, to find a 5-star player now, you're talking 150 million. Like, that's the kind of level that these guys are at now. Now, we wouldn't sell them for that money because of our reputation, but players of equal quality at big clubs would. That's just the way it is. So we have to look young. So let's move on to the attacking mids. It did just occur to me that I did the CM analysis with DM stats here. But I just had a look, and there wasn't a great deal more that we could learn anyway. For the attacking mids, we're going to ignore Grosito because he's mostly not played there, whereas Treverio and Carroll both have. So this is kind of where we're looking a bit thin in this area still. In terms of potential, wow, this guy, right? I've got to talk about Rafał Brzozowski, because he came through a couple of seasons ago from a youth intake, right? And at the time, I didn't really think much of him because I think he came through where there was someone else much better. But over time, he seems to have really grown in my scout's estimation. And actually, he looks like quite the player for this right-hand side, which is weird because he kind of just went under the radar. So yeah, that's kind of interesting, but he is not an attacking midfielder. And you can see that that's an area that we are definitely going to have to look at. Maybe bringing in someone in the summer to play as a young backup to these guys. There's a few in mind because there's no shortage of these players. We just need to find the right ones. So just in terms of depth there, that's definitely a position I wouldn't mind strengthening. Anyway, goals per 90 minutes. Treverio, 0.62. He's got 20 goals this year, but Carroll has also managed a decent number. To me, getting close to the goal every other game is still very, very good for that role. And the fact that Treverio is above that is magnificent. And again, he's just outperforming Carroll that little bit in that role because he's a much better player. But Carroll, I still think, is a great understudy to him and can do a fantastic job when called upon. His chances created actually per 90 minutes is slightly better than Treverio's, and my guess is because he's playing often when he plays with a slightly lower quality of player, they're not able to put his chances away. Now, cross completion as well. TripAdvisor. Sorry, I keep changing it just for the lols, but I couldn't start calling him that. I'll change it to booking.com in a minute. 23% is much, much higher, but the pass completion again is still up there as well. They're relatively close in that one. Treverio is just better in most areas. However, he is not winning as many headers in the air. 5'10" to Carroll's 6 foot. So that's definitely making a huge difference. You can see he's winning nearly 3 times the number of headers per 90 minutes. So it definitely does give us something extra in that forward position. He's shooting more on target, he's having slightly more shots per game, and he's dribbling a little bit more. Treverio has had an absolutely phenomenal season though, and the fact that he's got that perfectionist personality means that my mentoring group is very, very useful to have him in it. So simple story here. I want to sign a couple more youngsters to back these guys up, but Treverio is definitely our starting attacking midfielder next year because when he's been put in that role, particularly in the second half of the year, he's proven he's got goals to his game. Carroll is a phenomenal backup, and I'm sure he'll continue getting caps for Poland and improving because he's still getting a good sort of nearly 2,000 minutes a season of football, and it might even increase next year. You know, if we got an injury, Carroll would be forced to step in as our first choice attacking midfielder. Again, a player that I didn't think was going to be that great for us. I still thought he'd be decent, has really turned into a bit of an underrated hero for the club. I want to see if Brzozowski could become that later down the line. He would be the ultimate underrated hero because I just didn't expect him to. It might just be a different scout is looking at it this time, but I swear he wasn't even 4-star rated in my potential analysis when I got the initial youth intake come through, because I can't even remember which one he came through in. It might have been the same one as Carroll for all we know. I don't think it was. I think it was a bit newer than that, but still very impressive. It might have been the same one as Idshak, and that's why I didn't even notice him because Idshak was so good. But there you go. So let's take a look at wingers now. Now, we kind of got to take some of this with a pinch of salt because what we're looking at here in minutes, like, Foposi has played so many minutes and Restrepo's played the most there, with Saavedra and Henningsen filling in occasionally. Waterberg and Lisek have played a lot together, so we can definitely look at that. I just wanted to keep these guys in there in case anything stood out to me, because he's only really played the equivalent of like 3 games, so I don't know if we can. We'll still leave it here, and you can see that the average rating is definitely a lot lower for him anyway. So, goals per 90 minutes. Blaise Lisek, 20 goals this year, and his goals per 90 minute ratio is off the charts. Waterberg's, though, is again above 0.5, which shows to me that he's a very, very useful player to have around. Foposi isn't that much below 50. I want them as close to 50 or above as possible, and Foposi is the youngest of the 3, so he's still got room to improve, and I think next year he could definitely do a job there. 14 goals this year is a decent amount. Restrepo has been well below that, and you can see Henningsen and Saavedra have contributed no goals whatsoever. So what I would say, though, is if you actually add up all the minutes that Restrepo, Henningsen and Saavedra have played together, it's not that far behind Foposi, and yet they would have contributed 4 goals to his 14. So that definitely does speak to me. Assist-wise, Henningsen has done all right at that one. Foposi not too bad as well, above 500, if you like. his batting average, so to speak, is really, really good, and he's contributed 17 assists. Lisic with 13 is still very, very respectable. Waterberg's is a little bit low, but it's still okay. But Restrepo really has struggled this year. I've got to say, he's played an awful lot of minutes and actually hasn't contributed as much as I thought he did, which is a bit of a shame when you think about it. Like, to have played that many minutes and only got 4 goals and 4 assists, and he got 2 of those goals in 1 game, it is a little bit concerning, because it's like, I don't think he's quite pulling his weight, particularly as he's often playing in the weaker team as well. So, I mean, maybe that could be hampering him because there's less quality, but he's got the likes of Firmino around, or Donny Waterberg, so I don't think it's all about that, in all honesty. Chances created per 90 minutes. Waterberg loves the creation of a chance, though. That's what I would say, and I think he probably deserves more assists based on that. Lisic is also in a good spot. For Posse, again, slightly below where I'd want him, considering the number of minutes played, but still pretty damn good. Restrepo, again, way too low. Even Henningsen's been better than him in that one. Interesting. What about cross completion? This is quite an important one. Henningsen, 31 is fantastic. Lisic at 22. Waterberg at 22. 19 for Posse, and again, Restrepo down at 10%. Like, this is the thing. Where is his lack? Is it crossing? No, it's 14. Where is he really lacking? Is it not very aggressive? Marking's not great. Like, Any idea, anyone, why Restrepo is actually really not putting much of an attacking threat forward? Like, when you actually look at his comparisons, Henningsen has completed 31% of his crosses. Now, he's attempted 29 of them, which is still, he's actually look at that. Henningsen has completed half the number of crosses in terms of total as Restrepo, despite only doing 29 crosses, where it's just taken Diego Restrepo 190 to get 19 completed crosses. That is a bit worrying for me, and I actually might look to move Restrepo on in the summer potentially, because I just don't know about him. It's really weird. He's underperformed massively, and that to me, right, is why you should do, if you're really serious about a save, and I'm gonna, if I do that really that really long season save with someone like Huesca, we're gonna be doing this a lot, like, during the season, because noticing things like this is what allows you to turn stuff around. Because to me, as far as I was concerned coming into this, Restrepo was doing just fine. He's having a decent season. Every time I saw him, I was like, yeah, no, this guy's doing fine. He's doing fine or whatever. He looks good. His current ability, his attributes look decent. So when you see something like this, you have to take notice, because he's been so poor in comparison. He's not getting enough goals considering the number of appearances he's getting and his actual stats as well. Like, he's got 13 finishing. He's got 13 composure. This guy should be finishing goals. He should be finishing chances off, quite frankly. He does try killer balls often, but I don't know. That would more lead to the passing side of things. He's not creating goals either. His chance creation's poor. His crossing is appalling, despite having good crossing stats. His actual pass completion is fairly solid, so that's fine. That's all right. Lisic's, ironically, is one of the worst, which is kind of interesting. For Posse, and what Lisic could definitely do with working on that. What's his actual passing stat? 11. He's got decent vision as well. I don't know. Bit of a weird one, which might just be the style of play he does. Key passes. Saavedra, really high. For Posse, nice. Waterberg, Lisic, Restrepo, again, towards the lower end, but it's certainly within the margin of error of a lot of the other players. It's not like he's drifting away so much. 40%. For Posse is 43, so he's not that far off, but you can definitely see that Lisic is much, much better. Dribbles per game. Like, he dribbles a decent amount. If anything, he dribbles more. I might have already rectified this issue by the time the new season comes around, but I would still be interested in what you guys think about why Restrepo is underperforming. Because to me, he is underperforming. Like, there's no doubt that he should be doing better. I wouldn't expect him to be matching for Posse, but I would expect him to be more like kind of the margin of error for him to for Posse should be similar to Waterberg and Lisic. He should be about, the difference between the two should be about the same as Donny Waterberg and Blazer Lisic. That to me, or around that kind of area. But he is, for me, much worse off for the most part. And that is a concern of mine. When you actually look at, particularly on the assists one, right? For Posse is the highest, and he should be, because this is the wing that usually provides the most assists. But then you've got Lisic and then Waterberg and then Restrepo. To me, Restrepo should be at about here, like sort of 40, maybe 0.4 maybe, because Lisic is a very good player. But he's really, really below that, and that is interesting to me. So let me know what you think about that one. We'll go on to strikers now, but that's the sort of stuff that you don't notice, for the most part anyway, unless you look at these statistics. So, yeah, he's only got one man of the match award too, but there you go. Let's go look at the strikers now. So for strikers, I'm actually going to look at all of them, because I just want to see how Federico Grande and Mateus Vigawa's stats line up to the others. I think that we still have to take it with a pinch of salt because of the games they would have played in, and you can see the average ratings overall here, but still, it's worth looking at, I feel. So, goals per 90 minutes. Firmino, I mean, that is actually very, very good. 22 goals this season in all competitions, a 0.91. That's nearly a goal a game he's got. And That's undeniably very, very good, to be honest. Federico Grandi, though, has got a 0.76. He's only started 3 games, but he's got 6 goals to his name this, and he's got a hat-trick in 1 game, which might have been what's kind of skewed the stat a little bit. His average rating overall has actually been very, very poor, but it might just be because when you get a lot of substitute appearances, it drags the average rating down, because subs very rarely get a decent rating in games because they don't get enough chances to actually improve it over the whole 90 minutes. So that might be what's dragging it down slightly. Pereira, still decent though, 26 goals this year in 41 appearances, but you can really see that Firmino has been absolutely outrageously good this season. 22 goals despite only starting 19 matches. He is definitely going to be sticking around for next season without a doubt. Zviggy, he does have 3 goals, but a 0.5 is still pretty okay, but we want a bit higher than that, really. Assists per 90 minutes. Pereira, nice and high at 0.26. Firmino at 0.25 and Federico Grandi at 0.25 as well. He's sticking it with them with the decent numbers. Zviggy, again, falling slightly behind. And again, on chances created, it's virtually the same. Wait, that's what I was looking at. Sorry, assists per 90 minutes. Yeah, he is slightly further off the pace, but chances created, pretty damn solid. Cross completion, yeah, I mean, it's... These two are just better at that. Pass completion, though, Fellini doesn't win as many passes. Zvigawa does, because we trained him as a shadow striker for all those years, and I think that's really helped him grasp that kind of style of play. And you can see just from the sheer number of passes he makes, Pereira makes an awful lot less. But what I would say is Pereira knows where a key pass is. He and Firmino are much better at that side of things. They love playing in their supporting strikers, so to speak. And as well, in terms of hitting the target, 63% for Pereira is phenomenal. And if he could just finish a few more and turn that into a bit higher of a number, that'd be great. Firmino at 56 is decent. Federico Grandi and Zviggy around about 50% is fine, but I would like it a bit more. Shots per 90 minutes. Federico Grandi has an awful lot of shots, it's fair to say, as does Zviggy. These guys take less shots but score more goals overall. Pereira, he wins a decent number of headers. Well, actually he doesn't, but yet he wins a lot of key headers, which is kind of interesting. Grandi likes to dribble. I don't know. Like, with the striker situation, for me, Pereira and Firmino are our starting strikers. It's as simple as that. Grandi, I might move him on if the right bid comes in. I think Zviggy does need to leave for the good of his career, and we do have some youngsters coming through. I might look for some more. Grandi might stick around a little bit more. If, for example, Zviggy wasn't around the next season, depending on which one goes first, really. I feel like if there's the right bid at the right time for the right player, then the other one might end up staying based on that. I know you'd be like, well, why wouldn't you just get rid of Zviggy? Because he's obviously the worst player. And I agree. But there is a level of sentimentality. And also, finding the right move for Zviggy is more important to me, because I feel like he needs to go to another Polish side. Whereas Grandi, I would be willing to accept bids from a much wider range of teams. Heck, I'd love to sell him to another Polish team. I feel like he could do a bloody good job there. But that's just the way things go. So, here endeth our analysis video. God, it's nearly an hour. I'm going to have to chop that one down a little bit, aren't I? God, look. Okay, so word of the day. There's this drinks bottle that Emma's left on my desk, and it says Titan Airways on it. So that is the word of the day. Leave that in the comments. Use it in a sentence, maybe, if you feel like it. And yeah, tomorrow, analysis video. No, that's this. What are you talking about, Matt? Tomorrow, transfer special. It's going to be a weird one. I sense there's going to be an awful lot of young players, but then knowing me, I'll end up finding someone like a Foposi kind of player and just bringing them in for the lols, because we're kind of at a weird point now where our transfer funds are being a bit depleted year upon year due to the 3-year deals I tend to structure. So, yeah, if you've enjoyed this, drop a like, that'd be great, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe, that'd be awesome as well, and I'll join you guys in the next episode for some transfer goodies. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.